Alone in the alien forest, 200 women shocked as they see a human male for the first time. The forest was silent in a way that felt wrong. Tall, glowing trees stood like guards, their leaves shining soft blue and green light. The air was warm but heavy, as if the world itself was holding its breath. This forest was on the planet Leora, a world ruled only by women. No male had ever walked here. Not in history, not in legend, the women of Leora believed the forest was sacred and safe. 200 alien women moved slowly between the trees. They were hunters and guardians, tall and strong, with silver skin and bright eyes. This was a ritual hunt, done once every cycle, not for killing but for balance. They believed no dangerous life lived in this forest. Every creature here was gentle, or at least predictable. That belief would soon break. One of the hunters stopped and raised her hand. The group froze at once, trained and silent. She pointed to the ground. There were marks in the soft soil, deep marks, uneven. Pressed down with weight, they were footprints, but not like any animal they knew. The women exchanged nervous looks. No creature on Leora walked like this. 2 long steps, forward-facing, heavy. Another hunter moved ahead and touched a broken branch. It was snapped with force, not cut. Something strong had passed through here. A low sound moved through the group. Not a voice, but fear. Their weapons were raised now. Glowing softly, the forest felt darker. They continued deeper, slower now. Every sound felt loud, every movement dangerous. Then one of them saw it, between the glowing trees. Something stood still, tall, thin, standing on 2 legs. Its skin was not silver, but pale and rough. It turned its head. 2 eyes looked back at them. Filled with pain and alertness, the creature was bleeding. Dark red liquid running down its side. The women stepped back in shock. This was no animal. It was wearing strange coverings, torn and burned. One hunter whispered an old word from forgotten stories. Human. No one had ever seen a human before. They were only warnings in ancient data. A species from the dark edge of the galaxy. The human tried to move, but failed. It fell to one knee, breathing hard, still. It did not beg. It did not scream. Some of the women aimed their weapons. Others hesitated, watching the creature closely. This human looked dangerous, yet weak. Suddenly the ground shook. A shadow moved fast through the trees. A wild beast of the forest charged toward the human. Drawn by blood, before the women could react, the human turned in one fast motion. It grabbed a broken metal tool from the ground, even wounded. It placed itself between the beast and the women. The beast attacked. The human was thrown aside, crashing into a tree, but the beast fell too, injured by the human's strike. The forest went quiet again. The human lay still, blood spreading into the glowing soil. The women stared in disbelief. He had protected them. A creature they feared had chosen to stand and fight for strangers. One hunter approached carefully. She knelt beside the human and watched his chest rise and fall. He was alive, but barely. A signal passed through the group. This was no monster, not yet. This was something unknown. Something powerful and fragile at the same time. The leader of the hunt made a decision. They would not kill him. They would take him with them. As they lifted the human, his eyes opened slightly. He looked at them, not with hate but confusion and resolve. Then darkness took him, far above the forest. Unseen machines moved in orbit, tracking the same signal that had led the human here. The forest of Leora was no longer hidden. And this was only the beginning, absolutely. Here's part 2, written in 3rd person, simple English, more suspense, and longer than part 1, keeping the story immersive for a YouTube audience. I've kept the voiceover style in mind, ending sentences with commas as requested, #. Part 2. Among the alien women, the forest around them was quiet. But the silence was heavy. Every step the alien women took was careful. Almost reverent, they carried the human between them. His body fragile and strange. His skin was soft in some places, rough in others. Unlike anything they had ever touched. He breathed shallowly, sometimes twitching in pain. The women spoke in soft musical whispers. Their words were unfamiliar, but each sound carried meaning. a language the human could not yet understand. He tried to speak, but only soft, broken noises came from his throat. The alien women stopped and stared at him curiously. No sound like this had ever been heard in their forest. They walked for what felt like hours, deeper into the glowing trees. The human's eyes flickered open occasionally, wide and alert. He studied everything: the colors, the shapes, the strange plants glowing in soft lights. Every leaf, every tree seemed alive and intelligent. He could feel the eyes of the women on him constantly, watching, judging, learning. At one point, a small alien child appeared from behind a tree. It had no fear, no hesitation, only pure curiosity. The human looked at the child and extended a hand. The child touched his fingers, then giggled. The sound was soft and musical, and for a moment, the tension among the women eased, but the forest was not entirely safe. From above, dark shapes passed silently, unseen by the group. The machines in orbit were scanning for the human's unique signal. Somewhere out there, unknown enemies were already aware he had landed. And they were coming. The women reached a clearing, unlike anything the human had ever seen. A city of trees, built without breaking them. Glowing bridges connecting massive trunks. The women carried him carefully, placing him in a central chamber. The chamber was circular. Walls made of living vines that pulsed with soft light. The human felt warmth, safety, and something else: curiosity and fear mixed together in an unfamiliar way. The leader of the women approached him. Tall and imposing, she touched his shoulder gently. And the human flinched. Her eyes were bright silver, full of questions, full of judgment. She whispered words, slow and deliberate. The human tried to repeat them, failing. She studied his mouth, his gestures, his expressions, for hours. They tried to understand each other. The women had never seen a male human. No history, no records, only warnings. Old alien texts spoke of humans as dangerous invaders, but this human was different. He did not attack, he did not speak threats. He simply existed, fragile but defiant. Outside the city, the forest grew darker, shadows moved faster, and strange sounds echoed between the glowing trees. The women became uneasy. They formed protective circles around the chamber, their weapons ready, glowing softly. The human watched them, sensing their fear. He wanted to help, but he did not know how. Suddenly, a loud, shrill alarm echoed through the city. The walls vibrated with a warning pulse. The human's eyes opened wide, understanding more than the women expected. Something was coming, and it was not natural from the forest. Dark shapes moved with terrifying speed. The machines from orbit had sent ground units. Small and deadly, the human recognized them immediately. Their movements precise, designed to kill. The alien women had never seen anything like it. Panic rippled through their ranks. But the human, weak and wounded, stood slowly. He examined the situation. He pointed, gestured, and moved quickly. The women followed his lead, unsure but trusting him. He was teaching them without words, showing them strategy in ways they had never known. The first enemy scout appeared, a mechanical creature, sleek and deadly. It moved faster than the eye could follow. Scanning for the human signature, the human acted, throwing a piece of broken tech from his ship at the scout. The machine stumbled, emitting sparks. The women gasped, amazed. They had never seen strategy or cunning like this before. One of the younger hunters shouted in alarm. Another scout approached, larger and more dangerous. The human looked at the women, his eyes filled with determination. He pointed to weak spots in the enemy's design. The women began to fight under his guidance. They used the forest itself as a weapon, bending trees, glowing vines, and branches. Each attack precise, each movement coordinated. The enemy units were confused, unable to predict their tactics. For the first time, the alien women felt hope mixed with fear. The human was teaching them, guiding them. They realized that perhaps this being whom they had feared and mistrusted was more than a stranger. He was a teacher, a protector, a force they could not ignore. And still, the forest outside whispered of danger. The machines in orbit would not stop. Reinforcements would come. The human's presence had triggered a chain of events, and the alien women knew their lives and the forest would never be the same again. As the night fell, glowing softly across the city, the human stood in the center of the chamber. Weak but alert, the women gathered around him, some in fear, some in awe, and in that moment, a silent agreement formed. They would protect him. They would learn from him, and the forest itself seemed to hum in anticipation. For what was coming next, no one could know. The forest city hummed softly, alive in a way the human had never felt before. Glowing vines pulsed with gentle light. Walls of living wood bending and breathing, the women surrounded him cautiously. Their weapons lowered, but their eyes alert. Every movement he made was watched, measured, questioned. The human stirred, feeling the weight of their gazes. Pain radiated from his injuries, but a fire burned inside him. He wanted to communicate, to show them he was not a threat. He gestured slowly, carefully, pointing to himself, then to the forest, then to his heart. The women tilted their heads, curious and cautious, for hours. They tried to teach him their words, simple symbols, basic sounds. He mimicked them, his strange accent awkward. Yet earnest, a bond began to form, silent but undeniable. Some of the younger hunters began to approach him with small offerings, fruits glowing softly, water in carved shells. The human accepted with a nod and a gentle smile. He touched the fruit carefully, inspecting the leaves and colors. He drank the water slowly, tasting life that was foreign. And in return he gestured toward the sky, showing them stars, planets, and distant galaxies. He spoke with simple words, not complex but filled with wonder. The women watched in awe, realizing he carried knowledge far beyond their imagination. Then came the moment that changed everything. A scream echoed through the city. Sharp and piercing, the human reacted instantly. Moving toward the sound, the women followed. Unsure, hearts pounding, in the central plaza, a small alien child was cornered by a wild beast. Its claws were sharp, its eyes red with hunger. The women froze, unsure what to do. But the human did not hesitate. He picked up a broken branch, still stained from previous fights. He measured the beast's movement, timing each step carefully. Then in one swift motion, he threw the branch. Hitting the beast directly in its eye, it roared in pain, stumbling backward. The women gasped, amazed at his precision. Before the beast could recover, the human rushed forward, grabbing it by its fur, twisting and throwing it into the air. The beast landed heavily, injured but alive. The women realized he had saved the child without killing the creature, and something inside them shifted. Fear transformed into admiration, suspicion into respect. They had never seen strength like this, combined with compassion. It was not raw power, but intelligence, strategy, and courage for the first time. They began to see the humans not as monsters, but as something remarkable. Hours passed, and the human began to explain slowly with gestures and broken words. He spoke of a world called Earth, of cities that touched the clouds, oceans that stretched endlessly, and people who fought wars but also loved deeply. He showed them his hands, explaining how humans build, create, and protect. The alien women listened. Wide-eyed, some shaking, they realized this being was alone. But he carried the hopes, the stories, and the spirit of an entire species. Yet the danger outside never paused. Through the glowing trees, shadows moved again, faster, darker. The orbiting machines had sent reinforcements, scanning for the human's energy signature. They would not stop until he was captured. The alien women felt panic rising. The human noticed it in their expressions, the tightening of shoulders, the nervous whispers. He stepped forward, lifting a hand showing calm. He gestured to the forest, pointing out traps, safe paths, and high ground without fully understanding. The women followed, trusting his judgment. Night fell over the forest city, painting the trees in silver and green. The shadows of the machines moved closer, undetected but inevitable. The human and the women prepared silently. Hearts pounding, he began teaching them to fight, Not recklessly, but with intelligence, he showed them how to use the forest itself branches. Glowing vines, roots that could entangle, how to move silently, strike quickly, and retreat before being seen. For hours they trained, and the forest seemed to respond. The trees bent to protect them, the vines pulsed with warnings. Even the smallest creatures seemed to follow the human's lead. It was as if nature itself acknowledged his presence. The women began to see a pattern in his actions. He was not just surviving, he was teaching, guiding, transforming, and deep in their hearts they understood the truth. This human was extraordinary, not just strong, not just clever, but a symbol of something greater: courage, intelligence, and hope. The kind of hope that could inspire even the oldest, most cautious among them. Then a distant pulse shook the city. A warning signal from the orbiting enemies. They were coming, larger, faster, more deadly. The women tensed, fear and adrenaline mixing. The human looked at them calmly, pain in his eyes, but determination burning brighter. He spoke one word, simple, powerful, and clear. Together, in that moment, a silent agreement formed. The human was not just a stranger or a curiosity. He was their teacher, their protector, their hope, and the forest of Leora would never be the same again. The first light of Leora's twin moons barely touched the tops of the glowing trees. The forest city trembled in silence as if it knew the battle had come. From the shadows beyond the outer canopy, the enemy advanced, metallic forms, fast, precise, and deadly, gliding over roots and vines. Scanning for the human signal, the 200 alien women stood ready, their weapons glowing softly, hearts pounding, breaths short, eyes wide with fear and determination. The human stepped forward, wounded but upright. His presence alone gave them courage, his calmness a shield against panic. He gestured, showing them how to use the forest. Bend the trees, pull the glowing vines. Use the roots to trap the machines, each move simple yet precise. He turned their fear into strength, their confusion into focus. The first wave of enemy units reached the clearing. They scanned the area, moving faster than any human or alien could see. The women followed the human's lead. Moving silently, striking quickly, branches fell from above. Vines wrapped around the machines, pulling them to the ground. The human threw small pieces of debris, hitting sensors and joints. Every strike calculated, every action purposeful. The enemy machines adapted quickly. They split into smaller units, trying to flank the women. A sharp scream pierced the night as one machine broke through the outer defenses. It was faster, stronger, and built to kill. The human stepped forward without hesitation. He moved like a predator, dodging, striking. Using his weight and momentum, he toppled the machine with a swing of a branch. Sparks flying across the forest. The alien women gasped, never seeing such courage. The battle intensified, louder, faster, metal clashed against wood. Glowing vines burned against metal surfaces. The women fought, guided by the human's voice. His gestures, his strategy. He was everywhere at once, directing, defending, protecting, even wounded. His mind moved faster than the machines. Every step he taught them, every trick, every pattern. He turned the forest into a fortress, the glowing trees, vines, and roots became weapons and shields. The enemy was confused, unable to anticipate their moves. Then came the largest enemy unit. Towering and armored, it stomped the ground, shaking roots and branches. The women froze, fear flashing in their eyes. The human stepped forward, chest bleeding, but eyes burning with determination. He studied the machine, analyzing every movement, every weak point. He signaled the women to flank from left and right. He would face the machine head-on. With a deep, steady breath, he ran, dodging lasers and mechanical arms. He jumped, twisted, and struck at the joints. Every strike precise, calculated, intelligent. The alien women joined in, their movements guided by his direction. Together, they brought the giant machine crashing down. The forest trembled, dust and glowing leaves filling the air. And for a moment, silence returned, broken only by the human's heavy breathing. The enemy was defeated, but the cost was visible. Some women were injured, some vines broken, the forest scarred. The human collapsed, exhausted, blood staining the glowing soil. The women surrounded him, lifting him gently. Their voices soft, reverent, they had never felt such respect. Fear, admiration, and gratitude all at once. The leader of the women stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. Her silver eyes were filled with emotion, trust, and awe. She whispered words in their language, slow and meaningful. The human understood without fully understanding. He had become one with them, protector, teacher, and hero. From above, the machines retreated, signals lost, confusion spreading through their ranks. The forest city remained, glowing and alive, and the human, once an unknown traveler, now stood as the first male guardian of Leora. He had earned their trust, their respect, and their admiration. The women looked at him not as a stranger, not as a legend, but as one of them, a protector who had shown what courage, intelligence, and humanity truly meant. As dawn painted the trees in golden and green light, the forest hummed softly. Alive, safe, and free, the human stood tall. Weak but unbroken, around him 200 alien women watched, smiling, honoring, and learning he had survived. He had taught, he had inspired, and in the heart of the forest, the legend of the human guardian of Leora had begun, and somewhere, in the stars above, unseen eyes recorded everything. A single truth remained clear. No matter how dangerous the universe, no matter how alien the world, the courage, intelligence, and spirit of one human could change everything forever.